Hi, this is Christine Calabrese, and I'm here with Barbara Ann Mojica, and she has her bachelor's and master's degree in elementary ed, special ed administration. She's got over 40 years, guys, of teaching in New York City, which is incredible. A big interest in social studies. And I'm here interviewing her today because she's a teacher who has done some incredible books for teachers. And how are
Thanks for
you?
inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. We're glad to have you. So I just have a few questions for you. And the first one was, did you yourself self-publish?
No, I'm not self-published. I am published by a small independent press. Very fortunate for me. My husband had a publishing firm and he published the series. And he kept the company and he also published some other authors.
First of all, let's explain what your series is. Your series is what? What did you write about?
Okay, my series is a children's nonfiction picture book series. When I did retire from my formal teaching career, I moved upstate because I've always loved the Hudson River Valley. And about a couple of months after I retired, I was bored already. So I began writing historical articles for a local news magazine, a series called Passages, and I still do that. But I wanted to get back to kids. So I wanted to marry my love of history and knowledge of working with kids in the classroom. So I decided to write a nonfiction picture book series. And when I decided I wanted to do that, my husband encouraged me and he said, well, you really need a character to narrate this, because I didn't want it to be boring. Like when I was young and went to school and learned history, most people hated history because it was just a collection of facts that you read from a textbook. And I wanted to make it exciting and fun for kids. So he said, well, why don't you have a character narrate the history? So he fashioned this character, Little Miss History, who was a younger version of myself. Since he is a cartoonist, he developed a kind of cartoon-like character that embodies a lot of the things that were important to me along the way in my life.
Show us. Do you have a picture of some of the books?
Okay, so she's dressed in kind of a camp outfit. She has pigtails.
And what does she do? She takes us around, right?
She narrates. So she has rose-colored glasses because she has an optimistic viewpoint of the world. She wears hiking boots that are kind of two or three sizes too big, and that's kind of like in memory of my father and his huge feet. She has a very humorous attitude. She doesn't take things too seriously, yet she addresses serious issues.
That's
so
great.
Her motto is, if you don't know your history, you don't know what you're talking about. When I do talk to kids, I explain to them that the word history contains the word story. And each of us has a story. It doesn't have to be a famous person, but our history helps us to learn and prepare for the future. So that's the message that I'm trying to get across to kids.
No, it sounds good. It's a great message. Do you have any tips for the teachers who are looking to write in your particular genre?
Well, the children's book genre is vast. I mean, there are so many types of books you could write about. You could write about board books for very young children, learning to read, easy reader books, chapter books, picture books like the ones
And you have any tips for those teachers who might be looking for historical nonfiction as well? Any tips for them?
Well, I would say write what you are passionate about. First of all, if you don't have a passion for what you're writing, that's going to show through immediately.
Hmm.
So it has to be something that you really care about because you're going to be spending a lot of time doing it. It has to be what you really want to write about. It has to be something that you're willing to rework over and over and over again, because writing for children in a lot of ways is a lot more difficult than writing for older children or
Say
adults.
that.
Well, you
Why
have
is
to
writing for children so hard?
refine it and refine it and refine it. So when I choose a topic, I choose a face or a place or a historical landmark that I think is going to be something important that kids and adults know about. And I try to correlate my books with information that's not very well known. So I always try to incorporate little known things
And why do you
in.
do that? Why do you do that? Do you think that's a good tip for teachers to?
Yeah, I think you have to do voluminous research. You have to edit, 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 edit. And for children's books, it is so difficult to get it down to that manageable size. So a picture book is a book that's generally, well, for very young children, about 500 words. For the age range that I work with, which is a bit older,
Mhm.
elementary and middle school children, my books are all under 1,000 words, but most of them hit between 700 and 1,000 words. And it's difficult because you want to get so much in there and you have to boil it down to its essence. So you have to keep editing, 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 editing.
Mhm.
And with a picture book, you have to seamlessly work the illustrations with the text. And sometimes that means rewriting your book. So you have to be prepared to spend a lot of time re-editing, redefining, reworking the message. And if you're going to write a book that has illustrations, that's even more difficult because the illustrations have to work seamlessly with the text as well.
Well, how did you find your illustrator? When you were thinking of writing, did you think of a group of people, or did you just know who your illustrator would be, or how did it work?
Well, my husband has been illustrating since the age of 5, and he's done children's books for major companies like Random House and Henry Holt, and way back in the beginning of his career.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a lot of experience in the field already. So naturally, he became my illustrator.
Ah, yeah.
And since he helped me develop the character,
Mhm.
natural. So I was very lucky. But for people who are not going to be independently published, that's the majority of writers. So if you're just entering the field, it's very unlikely that you're going to be traditionally published.
Right.
So if you work with a traditional publisher, or if you work with an independent publisher, you're probably going to be assigned an illustrator.
Mm.
And you're going to have to work with that illustrator. Now, you're going to have some flexibility because most illustrators will allow 1 or 2 changes, but they're not going to allow you unlimited scope, which I have. Because my husband is my illustrator, we bounce ideas off each other. I give him the text initially, and then he conceives in his mind of how he thinks he's going to portray it in pictures. So he starts out with thumbnails, and then we proceed to page-by-page illustrations. Sometimes my manuscript doesn't work, and that would be true with a teacher or anyone else who is going to publish. It just doesn't work with the illustrations, and you don't foresee that. So sometimes you may even have to rework or reorder the text and until it fits with the illustration. It takes a long time, and you have to be prepared to let go of some control, because when you first start writing, you foresee the manuscript, you foresee exactly the way it's going to look, and it doesn't always turn out that way.
So for teachers, it's basically it's a long, hard road. I know for me, a lot of people have asked me, well, I have this text, but I need an illustrator, and that's always the gotcha because illustrators cost money, right? I mean, your husband doesn't charge you, right? But if you're going to hire an illustrator to do your work, they cost money,
Well, yes.
right?
Again, it depends on how much illustration you need. I mean, if you're going to do a chapter book, you may only need someone to design the cover
Hmm.
and to do a few black and white illustrations inside. And of course, that isn't quite as complicated and it's easier. You can find an illustrator through word of mouth if you know other authors. And the first thing you should do if you're thinking of writing a book is to start networking, because you need to build up a network of fellow authors. There's a support group and a buddy group. And I know I have a core group of authors that I keep in touch with, and through email, through my social media outlets. I have a blog. I review children's books on my blog, and I review a lot of books. I'm a top reviewer on Amazon, and my blog, I read a lot of books. I review a lot of books every week. So I post at least twice a week. So that helps me to keep in touch with the market, what's out there, what other authors are doing, what other parents and teachers are looking for.
Yeah,
So,
it's
that's important.
it's a passion. Basically, what you're saying is a passion, and if you don't have it, you can't just
If you're
publish it.
not willing to devote a lot of time to it, I mean, it's like a 7-day a week. I work more hours now than I did, with the possible exception of when I was an administrator and I was working 10 hours a day.
That was a lot.
It's just never ending. And then once you write the book, you have to market the book, and that's another whole.
Yeah, so can you give us some tips on marketing? What are some things that you've learned, and what are some things that teachers can avoid in marketing their books?
In marketing, there are so many people out there trying to scam you. I mean, you will write a book in 3 hours, how to find the best genres of books, how to set up keywords on Amazon, how to make $100 a week. I mean, it's like just insanity what's out there, and you have to be very, very careful. That's why developing a network of authors is important too, because they can alert you to some of these things. But there are some really good places to look out there. You can always look to sites like Writer's Digest online, the Independent Publishers Association. They work mainly with independent authors. They put out a news magazine. They have a website. Reader's Favorite is a good website. That one, you can request reviews for your book, which they do free of charge. There are book contests through them, but they also have a wonderful authors forum site. So I contribute to that quite a lot. When I find a good tip, I share it on there. So there's a marketing and a writers forum site. So you can go on there and you'll find others' brains to pick, and that's a very good resource. There's another great book out there written especially for indie authors, and another children's book writer, Carol P. Roman.
Oh yeah, I heard of her.
And a publicist who's very active in social media, Julie Gerber. Mm-hmm. They wrote a book called Navigating Indie World. And this book really makes it easy to find your resources. They deal with everything from the idea, okay, I'm going to write a book. Okay, what's next? So they have chapters on where to look for cover design, where to look to writing your blurb, which is very important for your book.
Yes.
How to find book reviews. They have chapters on where some suggestions where to look for illustrators, and then marketing. They have advice on the different sites like Pinterest and Google Plus and LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and the advantages and disadvantages of using them. And After each chapter, they actually give you links that you can physically go to. So it's great. It's fast and it's easy and it's handy. And I wish I had that book when I first started writing in 2012.
I think I met you on Goodreads, right? Is that where I met you? On
Yes,
a
Goodreads is
Goodreads.
also
Do you think
Goodreads
that's
is
a good
excellent.
place?
Goodreads has a lot of community groups that you can join. I think the most effective part of Goodreads is, I always post my book reviews on Goodreads because Goodreads, of course, is a site that's geared toward active readers. So people on Goodreads like to read.
Yeah.
Less of a buying and selling platform like Amazon is. But it's important for authors also, once you write your book, you have to really engage your profile on Amazon. You have to set up an author's page, and you have to learn about the ins and outs of setting up their keywords and all of that. So, it's important to know, and it takes time. Again, it isn't easy to negotiate. Amazon takes a while to learn how to use, and I still don't know how to use everything on it. Same with Goodreads, but Goodreads can be difficult to navigate sometimes, but there are lots of helpful groups. So if you go to Goodreads and you click on the community portion, there's a button there for community. It will list different groups. So depending on what you're interested in, you can probably find a group that will help you along. And they have groups for indie authors. They have groups for people looking for reviews. They have groups for people looking for advice on writing, and they're subdivided into different age groups and genres. So you can find young adult groups. You can find middle read groups. It's pretty much unlimited.
I mean, we can't do everything, right? So what are your 3 top platforms for promoting your book?
Okay, I would say, you're going to probably find this strange, but I probably use Twitter the most. It's short. It gets right to the point. I can use trending topics. I can use the hashtags for upcoming holidays, and I use that a lot. I would say Twitter. I would say my Facebook page, not my personal Facebook page, but I have a fan page for Little Miss History. So it's Facebook, and then it's /littlemisshistory.com. To people that are actively engaged with the series, I have a lot of communication with them on that. And then my blog, which is connected to my website. So my website is simply the littlemisshistory.com. And my blog is bamauthor.wordpress.com, and that also is connected to my website. So my blog is mostly for book reviews and different things connected with books. So I recently was one of the judges in the Sybil's Blogging Award contest. So I am posting my reviews of the finalists and the winners on there. And the biggest part of my blog is the networking with parents and homeschool groups. And you can also take your blog and link it, which is very effective for developing new readers and followers. So I participate in a lot of linkies, the linkies, where they have link ups and you can post your blog entries on the linky. So I do a lot of that. So there are a lot of homeschool groups and a lot of teachers and parents that use these linkies, so you can develop.
I've never even heard of that. That's a new one for me. I'm telling you, there's so much to learn here.
Random Musings is one, and Mommynificent is another.
That's called a linky.
Yeah, they're called linkies.
I never heard of that.
So what you do is the link. It allows you to post a couple of entries from your blog, but it has to be done from a blog, and it doesn't have to be WordPress. It could be another platform. But they have a linky, and it pops up, and you enter very simple information about the URL to your blog, what it's about, and a picture. And what you do is you click on other people's postings, and it's kind of a round robin kind of thing. And you can make a lot of contacts that way. You, you know.
Which takes up more of your time, the writing or the marketing?
Well, it depends on what point I am in time. Some days it would be writing. But I would say the majority of the time, marketing. It's just, and it can consume you. I mean, technology is wonderful and it allows us to do so much, but it can be a double-edged sword. I mean, it can just consume you, and it is impossible to keep up with everything. So, yeah. I mean, when I first started, I didn't know where to start. So it's kind of like trial and error. You try one social platform, and if it doesn't work, then you try something else until you find a few things that work the best for you. That doesn't mean that you discard them and you throw them out completely and close your account necessarily. But you have to pick and choose because it is simply impossible. You could be spending 20 hours a day on social media, just trying to, and you just can't. You just can't keep up.
Sometimes I wonder, about the marketing, those little marketing things that they sell, but I just don't think that they would know where to market a book if you as the author know exactly where to go, who your people are. I mean, you're handing it off to somebody who has no concept, especially as a teacher. We know who we're writing for. So
that's a big advantage for teachers because finding your target audience is not necessarily easy. I mean, when you think about writing for children, you're writing for children, but who is buying the book?
Right.
It's an adult buying the book. So you always have to keep that in mind. And my target market includes teachers, parents, a lot of homeschool parents, and surprisingly, or not so surprisingly, grandparents. Because grandparents, of course, love to buy books for their children. And when I do book festivals, a large part of the attendees are usually grandparents.
Oh, yeah. And I bet grandparents have a big interest in history anyway, disseminating information about history, because the older you get, the more you realize that these kids don't know their history, and we need to do something to bring it over to them. So I bet that is a good idea.
They are unfortunately, or today, they spend a lot of time with the children, sometimes more time with the children than parents do. So
so they're the ones,
They're the ones who are perhaps even more in tune.
All right. Well, it was lovely speaking with you, and I'm going to sign off. And bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for having me.